Hi, good evening. It's Mayor Weinstein from Israel Now. I'm joined this evening with Mayor Jolowitz. We're going to be speaking about the latest ceasefire that President Donald Trump just proclaimed with Iran. And we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of it. First off, I'm going to ask whoever is watching if you could please share this with whatever social platforms that you're on, social media platforms that you're on, if it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, um, WhatsApp groups, we'd appreciate it. Please share this. This is very important to what we're going to be discussing tonight. Now, in Israel, they just finished honoring Yom HaZikaron. That's where for moments in the day, the traffic comes to a stop. Everybody comes to a stop. There's a siren that goes off, and everybody stands at attention to remember those who fell for the state of Israel, for the survival of the state of Israel. And since 1948, it's been 78 years already, and since 1948, the count is this is soldiers who fought for the state and died, and those who died as a result of terrorist attacks. 25,648 right now. That's the most recent count. Now, I'd like everybody to just bear in mind that during the Holocaust, in Auschwitz alone, at the height of their murdering Jews, gassing Jews, it was 12,000 Jews a day. So times 2 days, 24,000. You're very close to 25,000 in the 78 years of the state of Israel. The state of Israel is a miracle for the Jewish people. The state of Israel is strong and economically strong and only getting better. The GDP right now, they said, boast that it's stronger than many countries, and it's getting even better. Right now, it's over 700 billion. That's what the GDP is for this year alone. And by the end of this decade, they project that it's going to be well over $1 trillion. Israel leads the world in the military equipment. We hope that Israel will be completely self-sufficient because we have already heard from the Democrats in the United States that they want Israel, any kind of military assistance to Israel, cut off. They're becoming increasingly anti-Semitic, very anti-Semitic. And the only hope of allies in the United States is from the Republican Party. And right now, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, is a great friend of Israel. We could only imagine if the Democrats won the latest election, how things would be right now. But right now, we're talking about this threat, the greatest threat to Israel, which is Iran and Iran's aspirations for a nuclear bomb. They called Israel a one-bomb country. That's what they preach. They wake up in the morning and they go to sleep at night just thinking about one thing. They want to destroy Israel, murder all the Jews. They want to continue what Hitler started. Mayor, the latest ceasefire announcement from President Donald Trump, is this weakening the Iranian Islamic regime, or is it strengthening them whenever there's a ceasefire? How do you see it? What's going on here?
Let me just say this. This will take less than 10 seconds. I just want to correct something that you said.
Okay.
And I never otherwise have to correct you because you're always right. And I always agree with you.
Thank you.
But the number that you mentioned, which was a real number, the 25,648,
right,
actually goes even earlier than 1948.
Okay.
It actually includes those Jews who died in the creation of the state of Israel. So it includes numbers even in the decades when Arabs were murdering Jews. And the audience obviously understands that this Arab hostility towards Jews didn't come about because of the creation of the state of Israel. There were pogroms and they were murdering Jews in 1920 and 1921, in 1929, the Arab revolt between 1936 and 1938. So the point that you make is a very valid point. Twice as many people died in Auschwitz, As many people died in Auschwitz in 2 days as died in all those years.
Right.
But those years do predate 1948.
Wow.
Otherwise, everything else you say, you're absolutely
Well,
right.
that's amazing.
As concerns ceasefire, yeah, on previous broadcasts, you and I have mentioned many times, and it's a point that seems lost in so many people who think that they follow the Middle East, that there's never been a ceasefire that involves Israel or that involves any of the Muslim opponents of Israel. And the reason I say Muslim now instead of Arab is because when we talk about either Turkey and or, but in this particular case, Iran, it's not an Arab state, it's a Muslim state.
Mm-hmm.
But there's never been a ceasefire that has ever been an intelligent thing to do. It was Saul Bellow in his book, To Jerusalem and Back, that he wrote in 1976, in which he said a great deal of intelligence can be invested in ignorance. And I agree with you as far as Donald Trump being the best president, the best American president that Israel's ever had sitting in the White House during its 78 years. And as I mentioned in a piece that I put out today, not original, but nonetheless one that needs to be said, that it's Israel's birthday today. And Israel is not only 3,000 years old, it's 78 years young. And it's a point that needs to be made time and again. But during those 78 years, when Israel has in fact been in conflict with the Arabs and there have been ceasefires, there's not been a single ceasefire that ever worked to Israel's advantage.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we had October 7th happened was because Israel, understanding after it vacated Gaza in August of 2005, thinking that that might bring not peace, but quiet, a measure of quiet. Now, obviously, that was a foolish belief or prediction that the Arabs all of a sudden would become, because of your kindness, it would be met with their kindness. And Israel engaged in operations against, and always in retaliation to hostilities directed from Gaza in 2009, in 2012, in 2014, in May of 2021, and therefore we had 2023, which was, I want to read, if I may, I know we've only got a few minutes, so
Sure.
I want to read two headlines because I want to talk about Trump. And despite the fact that,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Trump is the best president, Trump, I've used the word before, is quite naive when it comes to certain understanding of the Arab world or the Muslim world. He's naive. At other times, I've referred to his actions as a result or byproduct of his gullibility. So I just want to mention, here's a headline that was published just a few hours ago in Israel National News.
Oops. Mayor, I don't know, it froze. The screen has frozen on you.
Extended until Iran submits a proposal.
Now it's fine.
What the headline needed to say was Trump announced a ceasefire suspended, not extended, suspended or ended until
Mm-hmm.
Iran submits. I don't know who is teaching them anything about military history in Washington, but there's nothing inconsistent with continuing a war and a blockade. But instead, Trump came out with his, and I have it here in front of me, his Truth Social. This is today, and it was
Mm-hmm.
under the whole thing about extending the ceasefire. And I won't read the whole thing, but he basically says that having consulted with the Pakistanis, their field marshal and their prime minister, we've
Right.
been asked by the Pakistanis, mind you, to hold our attack in the country. And he goes on to say that we still have the right to do the blockade, but based on the request from Pakistan. Let me throw this in because it's relevant, and I think it might have been mentioned the last time I was with you. And I'm looking at it, and because of the need to be brief, I'll do this. The three leading leaders, spokesmen, power brokers in Pakistan, the prime minister, the foreign minister, and its army chief of staff, all have one thing in common. They don't recognize Israel's right to exist. Here's
Right.
just one thing that was, and I'm just going to read this is from April 9th. April 9th. Israel is evil and a curse on humanity. While peace talks are underway in Islamabad at the time, genocide is taking place in Lebanon. Innocent civilians are being killed by Israel, first in Gaza, then in Iran. and now in Lebanon. The bloodshed continues unabated. And here is where we go. I hope and pray that the people who created this cancerous state of Israel on Palestinian soil, okay, will burn in hell. This is who Donald Trump today informs us, urged him. I hope we're not having technical issues because I see some little signals coming up there. But this
Very
is who
minor.
Donald Trump tells us urged him to have the ceasefire. So I'm gonna take us back a number of months. On September 29th of last year, 2025, Israel was engaged in Gaza. Israel was about to accomplish many of its goals in Gaza. And on September 29th, Trump, at the behest of Qatar, said to Israel, you need to stand down. There's going to be a ceasefire. The Hamas leaders, whoever was left, was absolutely pleased to hear it. And Trump then announced that because of the request of Qatar, just as he did today, the request of Pakistan, he said, I've told Israel and Hamas that there will be a ceasefire. And he demanded that Israel stop all its bombing and its hostilities against Hamas by October 4th of 2025. Well, how did that age? How did that work out? So we have two situations, and the lesson isn't learned. The one in Gaza, Trump tells us, and he said, this will be peace. It'll be the first time we have peace in 3,000 years, because Qatar, who is our dear friend and who we trust and an ally, has assured us that it's the thing to do. And it was a calculated disaster. And today we have Trump telling us that Pakistan has also urged, and who in Pakistan? The very people who I just quoted as having said that they don't believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist. We need to wake up. There's a certain naivete, there's a certain gullible thing that is in play, even with our favorite president in the United States. And it's going to bite us in the ass. I do want to say this. Donald Trump is concerned about the optics. I mentioned this before. Donald Trump is concerned that in less than 8.5 months, there are midterm elections in the United States. And the polls don't bode well. People don't like this war, not because it's not a righteous war. It's because well, allow me to say this as a footnote. Because people are stupid. Because people are stupid. What do they know about geostrategic affairs and everything else? But if Trump allows Iran to survive, and that's all they're concerned about, you and I will be having a broadcast in another 8 months or 10 months or 12 months, and certainly after he's no longer president. And we will look back at today as we have other days and we will say that a terrible mistake was made.
100%. There are people such as Michael Oren and Mark Regev. They have gone public on this, and they have said even that if the war would end immediately, that worst case scenario for Israel's in a much stronger position now than they have ever been in. Mayor, I just see that your screen has frozen right now.
To mind
you're back.
The 1962 Missile Crisis, when Secretary of State Dean Rusk said, when he said we're eyeball to eyeball, and I think the other fellow just blinked. In this case, I hate to say it, we're eyeball to eyeball with Iran, and it was Washington that blinked. It was Washington that blinked.
Right. So how is Israel in terms of, Mark Regev and Michael Oren, they're saying that if it stopped right now, Israel's in a much stronger position, the worst case scenario. How do you see that right now, where we proceed? And right now, Israel
I apologize on my end, and I hope that...
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm apologizing because on my end, much of it was electronically muffled, and I really hope that isn't the case with the listeners out there. That Israel is in a very difficult position.
Okay.
The United States is Israel's only ally. And Israel,
Mhm.
we see now, is really America's only ally. Certainly not France, it's not Germany, it's not England, it isn't South Korea, it's not Japan. Israel's the only ally. And the United States, to a certain degree, Donald Trump, is taking advantage of that. He knows that Israel, no matter what he does, no matter what he says, if he calls for a ceasefire, if he tells Israel to stand down, Israel's going to comply because Israel needs America as an ally. What I'd love to see happen, it's not going to happen, is for Donald Trump to say, I have the midterm elections to worry about. Israel, Bibi, take care of business. I'm gonna step aside. This is your dance. Finish the job. Finish the job. Because if the job isn't finished, Donald Trump will not inherit. He's not going to inherit the peace that he thinks is going to come. There will not be peace as long as there's not a regime change. There will not.
Right. And so far, we haven't seen much movement for that right now. I mean, I don't, they're unarmed anyways, the Iranians that want regime change. So how do you see that unfolding?
Well, the ceasefire is viewed by the good, patriotic Iranians, those who don't support the Muslims and the Ayatollah. They see it as a betrayal. That
Right.
at a time when the United States, to use a boxing term, had the Iranians on the ropes and the fight was going to end, all of a sudden someone rang the bell, and it was the person who was winning the fight that rang the bell and said, okay, let's have a ceasefire. And again, there isn't a single example in Middle East modern history where the ceasefire has not been taken advantage of, the bad guy against the good guy, in order to extend the fight, in order to come back and fight another day, in order to regroup, in order to rearm. It's a terrible mistake. And as I said, I understand Trump's concern about political issues at home, domestic issues. The price of gas is an example. Trump's own people are telling him that the price of gas is going to stay high through the end of the year. And through the end of the year means through midterms, which means that he will lose. The Republicans are going to lose the midterms. That is the operating element that drives Trump's decision to call a ceasefire. Doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. He needs to allow Israel to do what Israel needs to do. That's it.
And in Iran, the regime there, they certainly read this. And they're certainly messaging this all day, in fact, that ceasefires play into their hands.
I'm sorry. Again, I'm having some electronic problems. I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Yeah, the regime, the Iranian regime, is claiming that ceasefires play into their hands. That the ceasefires only strengthen them.
I'm not going to ask you to repeat it again. I'm not going to ask you it again because, once again, I didn't hear it. And I'm looking at the clock. So allow me, and I apologize if I'm the one who's having the problem.
Right.
I'd like to end this with, I often cite quotations to sort of punch home the point that I'm trying to make. And this is a quote that goes back in fact, 2,000 years. And the father of Roman poetry, a very famous short quote in which he said the following: the victor is not victorious if the vanquished does not consider himself so. The victor is not victorious if the vanquished does not consider him so. And in this particular case, if you look at the Middle East, if you look at Iran, if you look at the region, the Muslims, Iran does not consider itself having been vanquished. And therefore, Trump needs to understand that he can't go around declaring victory if the other side is still breathing and if the other side is still willing to continue the fight tomorrow. And they are.
Right.
And they will.
Right.
Anyhow.
100%.
That's my closing comment.
Okay, very good. Mayor, we'll take it up again. We're going to be watching this absolutely every single day, and we'll come back to it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay.
And let me ask everyone who is watching, if you can please share this on whatever social media platform you use, or if you want to get involved with us, go on our website, israelnow.ca. And if you'd like to join, send us an email. If you'd like to make a contribution, do that as well. Go online, israelnow.ca, and we'll see you probably in a few days. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you.